In a quiet suburb of Portland, Oregon, a tragedy occurred that shook the local community. The Morgan family, who appeared to be the epitome of well-being, found themselves at the center of a mysterious and grim incident. After a heated family argument, Alice Morgan disappeared without a trace, leaving her husband Henry and 17-year-old daughter Kate in a state of shock and bewilderment. Weeks of fruitless searching for Alice followed, until Henry Morgan's body was discovered in their family home. These events set off a complex investigation that uncovered deeply hidden secrets and conflicts within the Morgan family. As the investigation progressed, more attention turned to Kate, the only surviving family member, whose testimony could hold the key to solving this baffling case. On March 15, 2023, loud screams were heard from the Morgan residence at 1478 Oak Street. Neighbors, accustomed to the peace and quiet of this respectable area, were alarmed by the unusual noise. Jane Foster, who lived next door, later told the police, "I had never heard the Morgans scream like that before. It was frightening." Henry and Alice Morgan, a married couple in their 50s, were known as successful professionals. Henry worked as a financial consultant at a large firm, while Alice was a respected pediatrician at a local hospital. Their daughter, Kate, was a senior in high school preparing for college. That evening, a conflict erupted over what seemed like a trivial matter. Alice had found messages on Henry's phone from a woman named Samantha, which were clearly personal in nature. Confronted with this, Henry initially tried to dismiss it as work-related correspondence. However, Alice, who had long suspected her husband of infidelity, did not believe his explanations. Kate, who was at home during the argument, later told the police, "Mom was yelling at Dad, accusing him of lying and betrayal. Dad was defending himself, saying she misunderstood everything. I had never seen them so furious." The argument lasted about an hour, after which Alice ran out of the house, got into her car and drove away. That was the last time she was seen alive. Henry, left at home with his daughter, seemed confused and distraught. He tried to contact Alice by phone, but all calls went unanswered. Several hours later, with no sign of his wife's return, Henry called the police to report her disappearance. Detective Michael Reynolds, who took the report, noted Henry's strange behavior. He seemed more irritated than concerned. That raised a red flag for me from the start. During the initial questioning, it was revealed that the Morgan family had been experiencing tension for some time. Kate said her parents often argued, especially in recent months. "They tried not to fight in front of me, but I often heard their muffled arguments at night," she shared. The police began searching for Alice, checking local hotels, hospitals, and questioning her colleagues and friends. Alice's car, a silver Volvo XC60, was found parked near Forest Park, a popular hiking area on the outskirts of Portland. This discovery raised even more questions. Was Alice there to calm down after the argument, or had something more sinister happened? During a search of the Morgan home, the police found several interesting details. In Henry's office, they discovered documents indicating significant financial problems. The company he worked for was under investigation for fraud, and Henry's name appeared in several suspicious transactions. Meanwhile, a check of Alice's phone records showed that she had been having lengthy conversations with a divorce lawyer in the days leading up to her disappearance. This suggested that Alice might have been planning to leave her husband even before that fateful argument. Kate, caught in the middle of this whirlwind of events, appeared confused and frightened. She told the police that she had noticed strange behavior from both parents lately. Mom would often lock herself in her office and talk on the phone for a long time, and Dad started staying late at work more often and always seemed anxious, she reported. As days turned into weeks and Alice was still not found, tension in the community grew. Local residents organized search parties to comb Forest Park and the surrounding areas. Flyers with Alice's photo and information about a reward for any clues to her whereabouts were distributed. Henry, under intense scrutiny from the police and the public, began to show signs of stress. He lost his job due to the investigation at his company and spent most of his time at home, avoiding contact with the press and neighbors. Meanwhile, detectives continued to dig deeper into the Morgan family's past. They discovered that Alice had recently made changes to her will, excluding Henry from it. This finding added a new twist to the investigation, heightening suspicions about Henry's motives. As the investigation continued, the Portland community remained on edge, waiting for news about Alice Morgan's fate. No one could have predicted what other secrets and twists lay ahead in this mysterious case of disappearance and potential crime. 2 weeks had passed since Alice Morgan's disappearance, and the investigation was gaining momentum. Detective Michael Reynolds led the investigative team, working around the clock to solve this mysterious case. On April 17, 2023, the police received an important lead. A surveillance camera at a gas station 50 miles from Portland captured a woman resembling Alice. She was refueling a silver Volvo XC60, matching the description of Alice's car. The footage was recorded on the night of her disappearance, about 2 hours after the argument with Henry. Detective Reynolds immediately dispatched a team to interview the gas station employees and local residents. This was the first real lead since Mrs. Morgan's disappearance. "We hoped it would help us understand where she was headed," Reynolds explained in his report. Simultaneously, investigators delved deeper into the Morgan family's financial affairs. An analysis of bank statements revealed that large sums of money had been withdrawn from Henry's accounts over the past 6 months. The transactions lacked any obvious explanation, heightening suspicions about his potential involvement in his wife's disappearance. On April 20th, detectives conducted a second interview with Kate Morgan. During a lengthy conversation, Kate reluctantly spoke about the tense atmosphere at home in recent months. Mom often talked about wanting to start a new life. She mentioned some important decision she was going to make, Kate revealed. This information led investigators to reconsider the possibility that Alice had voluntarily disappeared. However, the fact that she had not contacted her daughter, whom she was said to love dearly, cast doubt on this theory. Other intriguing details also emerged during the investigation. Alice's colleagues at the hospital mentioned that she had seemed distracted and worried lately. A nurse, Sarah Johnson, recalled a conversation with Alice a week before her disappearance. She talked about some big change in her life. "I thought it was about a promotion, but now I realize it could have been something more serious." On April 25th, the investigation took an unexpected turn. An anonymous source provided the police with information about a secret offshore bank account belonging to Alice. A substantial amount of money was in the account, the origin of which was unclear. This discovery raised new questions. Where did Alice get the money, and was she planning to use it to escape? Henry Morgan, upon learning of this, appeared shocked. During another interrogation, he insisted on his innocence in his wife's disappearance and claimed he knew nothing about her financial dealings. "I can't believe Alice could have hidden something like this from me. We were always honest with each other about finances," he stated. The investigation also extended to Alice's professional activities. A review of hospital records revealed several instances where Alice had prescribed powerful medications to patients who, it turned out, did not exist. This discovery cast a shadow on Alice's reputation and sparked speculation about possible addiction or illegal drug trade. In early May, the police organized a large-scale search in the forest area around the spot where Alice's car was found. The operation involved K-9 units and volunteers. The search continued for several days, but yielded no significant results, except for the discovery of a purse believed to belong to Alice. Inside, they found her driver's license and some personal items, but no notes or clues about her whereabouts. Meanwhile, the media actively covered the case of Alice Morgan's disappearance. Reporters swarmed the Morgan home, trying to get comments from Henry and Kate. The pressure from the press and the public increased, and Detective Reynolds felt the growing tension. On May 10th, there was a new twist in the case. The police received an anonymous tip that Alice had been seen in a small town in a neighboring state. The informant claimed that a woman resembling Alice had rented a room at a local motel under a false name. Detective Reynolds immediately sent a team to check out this information. Upon arrival, investigators discovered that a guest matching Alice's description had indeed stayed at the motel, but had checked out a day before they arrived. The motel owner identified Alice from a photograph but reported that she had used a different name and seemed very nervous. This new information added even more uncertainty to the investigation. Was Alice alive and hiding on her own? Or was someone trying to lead the investigation astray? As the investigation continued, tension within the Morgan family grew. Henry, under constant suspicion, began to show signs of stress and irritability. Kate, torn between loyalty to her father and concern for her mother, became increasingly withdrawn. Detective Reynolds realized that the key to solving this case lay somewhere in the complex dynamics of the Morgan family. He felt he was getting closer to the truth, but also understood that every new twist in the investigation brought more questions than answers. On May 15, 2023, 2 months after Alice Morgan's disappearance, an event occurred that shocked not only the investigative team but the entire Portland community. Henry Morgan was found dead in his home on Oak Street. The body was discovered by Kate, who had come home from school. Upon entering her father's office, she found him lying on the floor with no signs of life. Kate immediately called the police and emergency services, but the medics who arrived could only confirm his death. Detective Michael Reynolds arrived at the scene within half an hour of the call. The scene looked strange, he noted in his report. No obvious signs of a struggle or violence, but something seemed off. The initial examination of the scene revealed several intriguing details. Scattered papers lay on Henry's desk, including financial documents and, of particular interest to the investigators, a draft of a letter addressed to someone named D.S. In the letter, Henry mentioned a deal that was supposed to fix everything. The medical examiner, Dr. Laura Chun, conducted a preliminary examination of the body at the scene. At first glance, the cause of death is not obvious, she reported. There are no visible injuries or signs of a violent death. A full autopsy will be needed to determine the exact cause. Kate, who was in a state of shock, was questioned at the scene. She said that her father had seemed particularly tense and anxious in recent days. He hardly slept and was constantly writing something in his office. I heard him talking on the phone late at night, but I couldn't make out what it was about, Kate stated. Neighbors interviewed by the police also noted Henry's strange behavior in recent days. Jane Foster, who lived next door, said, "I saw him leaving the house late at night and returning only in the morning. That was very unlike Henry's usual behavior." During the search of the house, the police found several interesting clues. In a safe in Henry's bedroom, they discovered a large sum of cash and a passport in another name. This discovery heightened investigators' suspicions that Henry might have been planning to flee. In addition, scraps of paper with phone numbers and addresses were found in the trash can in the office. One of the addresses caught Detective Reynolds' particular attention. It was the address of a warehouse in an industrial area of Portland. On May 20th, the autopsy results came in. Dr. Chun delivered shocking news. Henry Morgan had died from poisoning by a rare toxin. This substance is extremely difficult to obtain, she explained. It is not detected by standard tests, which indicates a deliberate murder committed by someone with specific pharmaceutical knowledge. This information immediately changed the course of the investigation. The case of Alice Morgan's disappearance had now turned into a murder investigation. Detective Reynolds convened an emergency meeting of the investigative team. "We now have 2 interrelated cases," he told the team. "The disappearance of Alice and the murder of Henry. We need to explore all possible connections between these events." Investigators began to carefully study Henry's circle of acquaintances, searching for someone who might have access to the poison and a motive for murder. Special attention was given to Alice's colleagues at the hospital, as the poison could have been obtained through medical channels. Simultaneously, a search of the warehouse, the address of which was found in Henry's office, was organized. On May 22nd, a team of detectives conducted a search of the premises. Inside, they found several boxes of documents related to the financial operations of the company where Henry worked. Among the papers were evidence of large-scale financial fraud involving not only Henry but several of his colleagues. This finding opened a new direction in the investigation. It became apparent that Henry was involved in serious financial crimes, which could have been a motive for both his murder and Alice's possible disappearance. On May 25th, investigators conducted a second interview with Kate Morgan. This time, she was more forthcoming. She recounted a strange phone conversation she overheard the day before her father's death. Dad was talking to someone about a meeting. He said something like, "It's over. I can't hide this anymore. Tomorrow, I'll tell everything," Kate recalled. This testimony led Detective Reynolds to suspect that Henry might have been planning a confession or a deal with the authorities, which could have led to his murder. At the end of May, the investigation took an unexpected turn. An analysis of Henry's phone records revealed a series of calls to a small town in Oregon, the same town where Alice was allegedly seen earlier. This coincidence could not be accidental. Detective Reynolds personally led the team that went to this town. Local residents confirmed seeing a man resembling Henry several times in the past month. He had stayed at the same motel where Alice was allegedly staying before. This discovery led to a new theory. Perhaps Alice's disappearance wasn't so unexpected to Henry. Could they have been planning to escape together? And if so, what went wrong? As the investigation progressed, the Portland community watched every new twist in the Morgan case closely. Local media buzzed with headlines about the mystery of the Morgans, and conspiracy theories multiplied on social media. Detective Reynolds felt that the solution was close, but key details still eluded him. He knew that only by peeling back layer after layer of the Morgan family's complex story could he find the answers to all the questions and uncover the truth about Alice's disappearance and Henry's murder. In early June 2023, nearly 3 months after Alice Morgan's disappearance and 2 weeks after Henry Morgan's death, the investigation focused on the only remaining family member, 17-year-old Kate Morgan. Detective Michael Reynolds, leading the investigation, decided to conduct a series of in-depth interviews with Kate. "We believe Kate may know more than she is saying," he explained to his team. "She was at the center of events this whole time, and her testimony could be the key to solving the case." On June 5th, the first of the scheduled interviews with Kate took place. The girl, who appeared exhausted and distressed, agreed to cooperate with the investigation. During the conversation, Kate spoke about the tense atmosphere at home in the weeks leading up to her mother's disappearance. "Mom and Dad were constantly whispering arguments," Kate recalled. "One day, I overheard Mom saying something about the last chance to fix everything. Dad replied that it was too dangerous." This information caught Detective Reynolds' interest. He asked Kate to remember any other unusual details or conversations she might have heard. On June 7th, the second interview took place. This time, Kate brought a diary she had been keeping for the past few months. "I wasn't sure if I should show it to you," she said in a trembling voice, "but now I think it might help." Kate's diary turned out to be a treasure trove of information. In it, she detailed the events in the family, her observations, and suspicions. One entry particularly caught the investigators' attention. March 12th. "Today, I saw Mom hiding some papers in an old book in the library. She looked very worried. When I asked what was wrong, she said she was just sorting out old documents. But I had never seen Mom so nervous." This entry was dated 3 days before Alice's disappearance. Detective Reynolds immediately organized a second search of the Morgan home, focusing on the library. On June 9th, the search yielded results. In an old edition of Pride and Prejudice, they found the documents Kate had mentioned. Among them were bank statements showing large transfers to offshore accounts and a letter from a divorce attorney dated February 2023. These findings confirmed the investigators' suspicions that Alice had planned to leave her husband and possibly start a new life. But this did not explain her sudden disappearance and Henry's subsequent murder. On June 12th, the third interview with Kate took place. This time, she appeared more determined. "I have been thinking a lot," she began, "and I remembered something important. The night Mom disappeared, after her argument with Dad, I heard someone enter the house. I thought it was Mom coming back, but she wasn't there in the morning." This new information made Detective Reynolds reconsider the timeline of events. If someone did come to the house after Alice left, it could explain a lot. On June 15th, investigators conducted another round of interviews with the Morgans' neighbors. Jane Foster, the neighbor across the street, recalled an important detail. That night, around midnight, I saw a dark car driving away from the Morgan house. I didn't think much of it then, but now I realize it was strange. These new testimonies led to a new theory. Perhaps Alice didn't just leave after the argument but was abducted. But by whom and why? On June 18th, Kate came to the police station again. This time, she brought an old cell phone. I found it among Mom's things, she explained. I don't know why she kept it, but maybe there's something important on it. Police technicians immediately began analyzing the phone's contents. Among the contacts, they found a number saved under the name DS, the same initials that were in the draft letter from Henry found on the day of his death. On June 20th, Detective Reynolds conducted a lengthy interview with Kate, trying to find out if she knew anyone with the initials DS. After much thought, Kate recalled, "David Summers. He's an old friend of Mom's from college. He came to visit us a few times when I was little." This information was a breakthrough in the investigation. The police began searching for David Summers, who could be the key to unraveling the mystery of the Morgan family. On June 23rd, Kate returned to the police, this time with an unexpected confession. "I haven't been completely honest with you," she said in a trembling voice. "The night Mom disappeared, I didn't just hear someone enter the house. I saw the person. It was David Summers." Kate's confession was a turning point in the investigation. Now Detective Reynolds was convinced that David Summers played a key role in the events that led to Alice's disappearance and Henry's death. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Kate might have known much more than she initially revealed. Detective Reynolds understood that the solution to the mystery of the Morgan family was close, but the most shocking revelations were still ahead. By the end of June 2023, the investigation into the Morgan family case entered a decisive phase. After Kate's admission that she had seen David Summers on the night of Alice's disappearance, Detective Michael Reynolds focused all efforts on locating this man. On June 25th, the police found David Summers' address in a small town 2 hours from Portland. Reynolds personally led the team that went to arrest him. However, upon arrival, they discovered that Summers had left his home a few days earlier, leaving a note with his neighbors about an urgent business trip. A search of Summers' house yielded unexpected results. In his office, they found photographs of Alice Morgan dated over the past few months. In some of the pictures, Alice was seen in places where no one had spotted her since her disappearance. This discovery confirmed investigators' suspicions that Summers was directly involved in Alice's disappearance. On June 28th, Detective Reynolds conducted another interview with Kate, now aware of the photographs. The girl seemed to be on the verge of a nervous breakdown. "I can't hide it any longer," she said, bursting into tears. "Mom is alive. She contacted me after her disappearance." This confession marked a shocking turn in the case. Kate revealed that Alice had called her a week after her disappearance, saying she was safe but could not return home. She had asked Kate not to tell anyone, especially her father. "Mom said Dad was involved in something dangerous and illegal," Kate continued. "She feared for her life and decided to disappear. David Summers helped her." On June 30th, investigators gained access to David Summers' bank records. They found a series of large transfers to a Swiss bank account, coinciding with Alice's disappearance. This supported the theory that Summers helped Alice go into hiding, possibly in exchange for a portion of the money she had withdrawn from her accounts before disappearing. On July 2nd, a breakthrough occurred in the search for David Summers. A surveillance camera at a gas station in Northern California captured him making a purchase. The police immediately dispatched a task force to the area. On July 4th, David Summers was apprehended at a motel near the Mexican border. During a search of his room, they found a passport under another name and a large sum of cash. Summers offered no resistance during the arrest and agreed to cooperate with the investigation. During questioning, Summers revealed shocking details about the case. He claimed that Alice had approached him for help back in January 2023. She told him she had discovered evidence of Henry's involvement in a large money laundering scheme linked to drug cartels. Alice was terrified, Summers said. She feared that if she exposed her discovery, her life would be in danger. We devised a plan for her disappearance. Summers admitted to helping Alice stage her disappearance and securing her a new identity. However, he maintained that he had no involvement in Henry Morgan's death. On July 7th, Detective Reynolds met with Kate again to inform her of Summers' arrest and his statements. Kate seemed relieved that the truth had finally come out. She disclosed that her mother had contacted her several times over the past months, but always insisted on secrecy. "I felt awful hiding it from the police," Kate confessed. "But I was afraid for Mom and didn't know whom to trust." On July 9th, the investigation received unexpected information from Henry Morgan's colleagues. An employee at the financial firm anonymously reported that, in the weeks leading up to his death, Henry had hinted that he was planning to tell everything to the authorities. This information allowed investigators to propose a new theory. Perhaps Henry, realizing his wife had disappeared because of his illegal activities, decided to turn himself in. But someone among his associates might have found out and decided to eliminate him. On July 12th, Detective Reynolds received the results of a second examination of the poison used to kill Henry. The analysis revealed that the substance was produced in only one laboratory in the country, located in the same city where David Summers lived. This finding led investigators to revisit Summers' role in the case. Although he denied involvement in Henry's murder, the coincidence was too significant to ignore. On July 15th, Kate Morgan came to the police again with an unexpected statement. She admitted that she had found a flash drive among her father's belongings containing encrypted files. With the help of police specialists, they managed to decrypt the contents. The files on the flash drive contained detailed records of financial transactions related to money laundering. Among those implicated were several high-ranking businessmen and politicians. This discovery explained why Henry might have been killed. He was about to expose information that could destroy the careers of many powerful people. As these shocking details emerged, the Morgan family case was taking on a much broader scope. Detective Reynolds realized that they were on the verge of uncovering not just a family drama, but a major criminal conspiracy involving the highest levels of power and business. On July 18, 2023, the investigation into the Morgan family took an unexpected turn. Detective Michael Reynolds received an anonymous tip claiming that Alice Morgan was alive and residing in a small town in Mexico. Understanding the sensitivity of the situation, Reynolds decided to personally verify the information. Along with a small group of trusted officers, he traveled to Mexico without informing his superiors. On July 20th, Reynolds' team arrived in the town mentioned in the tip. After 2 days of careful searching, they found a woman resembling Alice Morgan living under the name Maria Gonzalez. When the detectives approached her, the woman did not deny her true identity. "I knew you would find me sooner or later," Alice said, inviting the detectives into her home. During a lengthy conversation, she revealed shocking details of the events leading up to her disappearance. Alice explained that several months earlier, she had accidentally discovered evidence of Henry's involvement in a money laundering scheme. "I was horrified," she admitted. "I didn't know what to do. Henry had always seemed so honest and decent." According to Alice, she decided to conduct her own investigation before going to the police. During this investigation, she discovered that the money laundering scheme was linked to a major drug cartel and involved high-ranking officials and businessmen. "I realized my life was in danger," Alice continued. "I couldn't risk Kate's safety. So, I decided to disappear." Alice confirmed that David Summers helped her organize her escape. However, she insisted that she did not know about his possible involvement in Henry's murder. On July 23rd, Detective Reynolds returned to Portland with Alice Morgan. Her return caused a stir in the police department and the media. Kate was immediately called to the police station to meet her mother. The reunion was emotional and tense. Kate admitted that she knew her mother was alive but was afraid to tell the police. On July 25th, a closed meeting was held with senior police officers and prosecutors. Alice provided all the evidence she had of Henry's criminal activities and those of his associates. The information provided by Alice, combined with the data from Henry's flash drive, allowed the investigation to piece together a complete picture of the criminal scheme. It turned out that not only businessmen and politicians were involved, but also some members of law enforcement. On July 27th, a series of arrests began. Several high-ranking officials and businessmen, whose names appeared in Henry's documents and Alice's testimony, were detained. However, the most shocking twist came on July 29th. During the interrogation of one of the arrested businessmen, it was revealed that David Summers was not just a friend helping Alice. He was a double agent working both for Alice and the criminal organization. According to the arrested businessman, Summers had been monitoring Alice on behalf of the criminal group while also helping her hide. His goal was to find out what information she had and to whom she might have passed it. This information led the investigation to reassess Summers' role in Henry's murder. It now seemed likely that he might have orchestrated the murder upon learning of Henry's intention to turn himself in to the authorities. On August 1st, Detective Reynolds conducted another interrogation of David Summers, now aware of his double-dealing. Under pressure from the new facts, Summers broke down and confessed to organizing Henry's murder. "I didn't want to do it," he said, "but I had no choice. If Henry had talked, the lives of many people, including my own, would have been at risk." On August 3rd, the prosecutor's office formally charged David Summers with the murder of Henry Morgan and complicity in the money laundering scheme. Alice Morgan was placed under witness protection along with her daughter, Kate. Although she was not involved in her husband's criminal activities, she was to serve as a key witness in the upcoming trial. On August 5th, Detective Reynolds held a press conference where he revealed the main details of the investigation without mentioning the names of high-ranking individuals implicated in the case. He emphasized that the investigation was ongoing and that more arrests were possible. What began as a case of disappearance and murder had turned into one of the most high-profile corruption and organized crime cases in Portland's history. It shook the foundations of the local political and business elite, causing a broad public outcry. Detective Reynolds knew that despite uncovering the main aspects of the case, many questions remained unanswered. He was determined to see the investigation through to the end, despite possible resistance from powerful individuals whose interests were at stake. On August 10, 2023, preparations began for the trial in the Morgan family case and the associated criminal scheme. The Portland District Attorney's Office had gathered a substantial amount of evidence, including Alice Morgan's testimony, documents from Henry's flash drive, and David Summers' confession. Detective Michael Reynolds continued working on the case, determined to uncover all aspects of the criminal network. He understood that the upcoming trial would not only address those directly involved in Henry Morgan's murder, but also the entire system of corruption permeating the highest levels of power and business in Portland. On August 15th, an unexpected event occurred. One of the arrested businessmen, James Hartley, agreed to cooperate with the investigation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Hartley provided detailed information about the structure of the criminal organization and the roles of its key members. Hartley's testimony led the investigation to several high-ranking officials who had previously remained above suspicion. On August 18th, new arrests were made, including the deputy mayor of Portland and 2 city council members. On August 20th, Kate Morgan gave her official testimony. She provided a detailed account of the events leading up to her mother's disappearance and her father's death. Her statements became an important link in the chronology of events, helping the prosecution to construct a complete picture of the crime. On August 25th, the preliminary trial began. David Summers, accused of Henry Morgan's murder and complicity in the criminal scheme, appeared in court. His lawyers tried to build a defense on the claim that Summers acted under duress, fearing for his life. On September 1st, the prosecution presented evidence linking Henry Morgan's murder to a major money laundering scheme. Alice Morgan served as a key witness, detailing how she discovered evidence of her husband's criminal activities and why she decided to stage her own disappearance. On September 5th, David Summers' defense took an unexpected turn by offering a plea deal in exchange for full cooperation with the investigation. Summers agreed to disclose all information about the high-ranking participants in the criminal scheme. On September 10th, based on Summers' testimony, new arrests were made. Among those detained were several federal officials and the owners of large corporations. The scale of the criminal network proved to be much broader than initially expected. On September 15th, Detective Reynolds testified in court, detailing the investigation's progress and the difficulties the police faced due to resistance from corrupt officials. On September 20th, the court heard testimony from financial experts who presented a detailed analysis of the money laundering scheme. It was revealed that billions of dollars, connected to drug trafficking and other illegal activities, had passed through the system. On September 25th, the prosecution presented its final charges. David Summers was charged with first-degree murder, Alice Morgan with concealing information about a crime, and dozens of other defendants with various financial crimes and corruption. On October 1st, closing arguments began. The prosecutors emphasized the systemic nature of the crimes and their devastating impact on society. The defense attorneys tried to portray their clients as victims of circumstances or minor participants in the schemes. On October 5th, the jury went into deliberation. Tension inside and outside the courtroom reached its peak. The public in Portland eagerly awaited the outcome of this unprecedented case. On October 10th, the court announced the verdict. David Summers was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the murder of Henry Morgan. Alice Morgan received a suspended sentence for concealing information, considering her cooperation with the investigation. The other defendants received various prison terms depending on their level of involvement in the criminal scheme. On October 15th, Detective Reynolds held a final press conference. He emphasized that, while the main perpetrators had been brought to justice, the work to eradicate corruption in the city was just beginning. On October 20th, Alice and Kate Morgan left the Witness Protection Program and started a new life under different names in another state. They left behind a tragic past, but the memory of Henry and the events that had shattered their family would remain with them forever. The Morgan family case became a turning point in Portland's history. It not only exposed a massive criminal network but also led to significant reforms in the city's government and law enforcement. The community received a painful but necessary lesson on the importance of transparency and honesty in public institutions. Detective Michael Reynolds, the central figure in this investigation, was promoted to head of the Anti-Corruption Division. He continued his work, knowing there was still much to be done to cleanse the city of the aftermath of this high-profile case. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories that are coming out every day.